So what's interesting about a lot of these new neurotechnologies is they're not just for treating disease, but are coming to the health and brain optimization space. And a real pioneer in that realm is my friend Ariel Garten, who's the co-founder of Muse. And she's, what I love at Exponential Medicine is to bring unveil new technologies, products, and data. And Ariel and her collaborator at Muse, Graeme Moffat, are going to share some new data and some new products. Let's go. Thanks.
You first or me?
Hello, I am Ariel Garten. It is an honor to be back on the stage. This is Dr. Graeme Moffat, the Chief Scientist at Muse. Take it away.
Thanks. So we're here to talk a little bit about neurotech and the future of brain health. You've heard in the first talk today about the far future, what the future holds, and what's promised by emerging neurotechnologies. What's available right now is what interests us. So we hear about neurotechnology everywhere. It's now in the mainstream. It's on everyone's mind. Elon Musk has launched a neurotechnology company. Facebook has gotten into non-invasive brain-computer interfaces. Brian Johnson at Kernel has launched a $100 million neurotechnology company. It's even on the cover of The Economist. But this poses a challenge to us. What is it that we're trying to achieve with neurotechnology? You've heard a little bit about how the far future holds promise for control of interfaces, brain-machine interfaces, control of prosthetic limbs. What is it that we're missing when we look past the near future and what's available to us today? So to get into the future, we take a step back. These guys dropped the hottest techno album of 1993. Or either that or they were the original wearable computing group at the MIT Media Lab. And one of our mentors, Steve Mann, on the left, considered the father of wearable computing, had a problem: controlling augmented reality interfaces in the early days without the use of hands. This led us to iTap. iTap.
So back in the early 2000s, my co-founder at Muse, Chris Amony, who you see on screen, and myself and Steve, we went around trying to discover ways to interact with the world without our hands. And the brain seemed like an amazing way to do it. So we had an early brain-computer interface system that allowed us to interact with the world directly with our brain, and we went on to thought control everything we could. We thought controlled toasters, slot car machines, big buildings, and in the process of doing this, had to really learn to manage our own minds. To thought control an object outside of you, you had to learn to control your own thoughts. You needed to focus, you needed to relax, you needed to clear your mind. And we recognized as we were doing this, what we were really teaching ourselves to do was to meditate. And probably the best application of this thought control technology was not to control the world outside of ourselves, but to learn to control what goes on inside our own mind. So we created this device. This is Muse, the Brain Sensing Headband. It's a clinical-grade EEG with 4 channels, 2 frontal and 2 temporal. It gives you real research-grade EEG dry sensor. And we applied it to the most difficult problem we could think of in the brain, which was teaching people how to meditate. We all know that meditation's amazing for us. There's extraordinary benefits, but it's really hard to do. You sit there alone in the black box of your own mind, and you try to think about letting your mind go blank, and it never works, and you're frustrated, and you typically give up. Or if you're a clinician, you tell your patient to meditate. You probably don't have meditation practice yourself. You tell your patient to do it. They never do it, and meditation never moves forward. So we went to seek to solve these problems by creating a device that could track your brain during meditation and give you real-time feedback. So you'd know when you were in focused attention and when your mind was wandering. You could actually hear the sound of your own mind and then be guided through a meditation practice that could help transform your life. This turned out to be extremely efficacious. We have tons of clinicians that use it, individuals every day, and millions of meditation sessions clocked on Muse.
So Ariel told you a little bit about what the benefits of meditation are, and I think these are pretty well known to most people now. Meditation will thicken some cortical areas. It can even shrink the amygdala. It increases communication between different brain networks. But you can go beyond just the anatomical correlates of this, and you can do some cool stuff with classifying brains by their age for meditators and non-meditators. So let's say we take a bunch of, this is the work of Eileen Lutters and colleagues at UCLA a couple of years ago. You take a bunch of anatomical MRIs and you train an algorithm to classify the brain age based on the labels of the chronological age of these people. And when you do that, you get this nice linear relationship between chronological age and brain age for non-meditators. But meditators completely screw that up. So the chronological age of meditators and their brain age doesn't correspond in the same way as it does for non-meditators. And in fact, when you remove that trend line, what you see is that the older meditators get, the farther their brain age from their chronological age. This is a really robust machine learning classifier that seems to suggest that the brains of meditators at 50 years old, this is people who've been meditating for 5 years, look 7.5 years anatomically younger than non-meditators.
Whoa!
So let's say we try to teach someone meditation with a Muse, and we want to know if it's efficacious. And so this is work from Michela Balconi's lab in Milan, in which she used Muse with undergraduates and people from the community, and in as little as 4 weeks, she gets a reduction in perceived stress. Perceived stress is stress, so this is a great result. What does this mean for neuroplasticity in the brain? Do we see changes that fast in the brains of novice meditators? We'll take a quick step back and look at, if I were to show you and ask you to count the number of times this dot appears, and I were to record your EEG, then on the onset of that dot every single time, we know exactly what networks in the brain, because of all the neuroscience that's been done on this, are activated by the task of counting this dot and recognizing it. And if we time lock to the onset of that dot, we get something called an evoked potential response. So this has a bunch of characteristic deflections that represent early visual processing, early cognitive processing, late cognitive processing, and it's highly sensitive to change. So in healthy and rested individuals, it has one characteristic. In those same individuals, fatigued and impaired, it has a different one. Now, what does this have to do with meditation? If we come back to our same population and we look at a complex task that reflects executive control, what we see is a neuroplastic effect in 4 weeks in novice meditators versus controls. So there's something about the executive control networks that has plasticity in it that's measurable with EEG. We can train people with EEG, and we can measure these changes with EEG as well. We can even use, this is Andreas Merschen's group's work from the MIT Media Lab, in which they tortured undergrads by having them hold their hands in an ice bath until they couldn't anymore. And you could see this very robust separation between a state of pain when they're holding their hand in the ice bath just before they remove it, and no pain. You can even look at individual stimuli and tell based on the brain response what people have seen and what information they've processed, whether they've recognized a particular stimulus. And this gets very good very fast. This allows us to integrate these kinds of technologies into virtual and augmented reality to make neuroadaptive interfaces for brain health, for gaming, for a number of different applications. And this isn't far future. This is already, they're selling these across the bay at the Society for Neuroscience. This stuff is coming down in price very fast. What about really big brainwave data? So one of the things we ask our Muse users to do is to share their brain data with researchers and with us so that we can evaluate and look for novel insights into brain health from the brainwave data. So some of you will be familiar with the classical EEG bands when you separated EEG into different oscillations of different speeds or different frequencies, and that this reflects different cognitive states. Well, we went and looked at the alpha peak frequency. This is the first EEG wave to be characterized. It was characterized by Hans Berger back in the 30s. And what we saw was a very robust slowing of the alpha wave with age. Now, this wasn't a novel finding because this had been reported before, but we did this in 6,000 people, and we saw a super linear relationship that hadn't been reported before. So that made us curious, and we went and looked at 84,000 sessions of EEG. We saw that same effect in a non-oscillatory part of the EEG that is very poorly characterized, and that changes with age in the same way as the alpha peak frequency. But what we didn't expect was that it changes with gender and time of day. So that's early in the morning, and that's later in the day. The genders separate, the slope disappears, and the age dependency is gone. We don't even know what this means. I showed this at the Society for Neuroscience yesterday, and the answer from most of the neuroscientists there was a collective.
So we've told you about some of the things that can happen when you have big-scale EEG data. Well, along with novel ways of characterizing the data, we have another exciting announcement today, and that for the first time, you guys are going to see something at XMed that most people have never seen in the world. This is Muse 2. Thank you. So it's slimmer, it's smaller, and packed with more sensors than the original Muse. So those of you that knows the original Muse, and I actually see some people wearing Muses in the audience, it had EEG sensors that track your brain. In our studies with third-party research labs, we got back data demonstrating that people who were meditating with Muse not only saw improvements in their brain, but saw an improved relationship to their body. They were reporting things like less headache, less pain, and less nausea. So we added additional sensor technology to Muse to track your heart, your breath, and your body. So we're able to get real-time feedback across multiple physiological areas in order to enhance your relationship to them and help you build a deeper meditation practice. So Muse's body sensors give you real-time feedback on your movement and guide you into stillness. They also guide you into finding a pain-free posture for sitting. For a lot of people, this is the very beginning of a meditation practice. Muse has breath technology that track your breathing each and every breath. The breath is a foundation of a classical meditation practice. Tracking and managing your breathing is also the easiest way to shift your physiology into a parasympathetic state. Muse has breath sensing technology that guide you through breathing exercises so you can learn to enhance your energy or calm yourself down. In this very same device, we also have a heart sensor. There's a PPG sensor on the forehead next to the EEG that tracks every beat of your heart and allows you to also track your heart rate variability. So we give you a beautiful, immersive, real-time experience of hearing your own heart. This is not simply a number on your wrist, but you can actually hear every beat of your heart like the beating of a drum to allow you to tap into your own heart in your own interoception and help you understand what lets you calm it down. And of course, our classic brain exercise is still in the Muse, but we've taken all that we've learned from our big brain data and allowed us to enhance the way that we give you real-time feedback and increase the precision of the response. So you're actually able to hear the sound of your mind as you meditate. You know when your mind is wandering and when you're focused, and you're guided into focus so you can stay there and build a practice. So you have beautiful real-time experiences that guide you through your meditation. After the fact, you of course get data. You're able to see what your brain and body were doing every moment of your practice. There's also a motivational architecture to keep you practicing every day, and you can even schedule your meditations inside the app. And of course, for clinicians, you get to see that data too. We have a dashboard called Muse Connect that allows clinicians to track their patients' compliance so that you can see when your patients have been meditating. And we all know that adherence is key. This is also really useful if you're doing a study, so you can see who has been complying to what degree and then track that against your data. It's particularly interesting when you see that there's evidence that suggests that when you add a meditation practice alongside a primary intervention, you get increased outcomes. So meditation is completely amazing, but it's only useful if you do it and if you do it every day. So we're excited to bring digital technologies forward that can help you enhance your mind, can help you enhance your body, and will hopefully change the way that we help patients improve their lives. Thank you.
Fantastic. 2 quick questions. So now you have the ability to bring new sensing data together and even folks to be data donors of their brain waves. Are you going to be able to build an app store for your brain and let people collaborate and build on top of this?
Yeah, I think that's already happening. We already have a number of people building apps on some of the new insights that we've done, both for research, brain research, pretty widely used now, and even for things like classical neurofeedback and esports gaming. So we're seeing a widespread adoption of this ability to measure physiologically what's going on in the body has pretty profound implications for all manner of mental performance and cognitive performance.
And last question would be, precision, mindfulness, and meditation. Not everyone's brain is wired the same way. You may want to have a specific outcome. Can you see an area where this will tune and optimize to you and guide you to a better space?
Absolutely. So the idea of having a database of brain data with your own brain data is that we allow the system to learn from you and adapt to you. And that technology is getting better and better. We just do a very little bit of it right now. Over time, you're going to see that improve.
Great.
Precision meditation.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So we have 2 keynotes.